Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about the latest episode of the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, Season 3, Episode 4, and they are in Thailand. So today is going to be planned out by Porsha. They are getting ready for the day, and remember that Leah and Candiace have been really bonding. As they're getting ready, Candiace tells her to stand up for herself and not let them see her walk away, like in situations where they're arguing or whatever, because it pretty much means that they won. Candiace says a funny thing on her confessionals that this is basically a non-scripted soap opera, and then they play like a parody of Days of Our Lives with the girls in the intro. It's really funny. Some of the girls are eating breakfast, and they ask Leah and Heather how they are because they were the ones that were more involved in the drama during the yacht. Heather is able to put her issues aside with Whitney, but the comments that Whitney said to the other women about Heather on this trip are really hurtful. But for today, Porsha has some activities planned out, but it's raining, so they'll see how that goes. Whitney is in her bedroom, and guess who she FaceTimes? Her new bestie, Lisa Barlow, and she reports everything about Heather to who seems to be her boss, Lisa. They start calling her a liar. Whitney says that Heather uses her as a mop and that she's not a good friend. Porsha, though, outside has some wise words with Heather at the breakfast table and tells her that they are blood, her and Whitney, and that they need to get along, and Heather might need to extend some grace to Whitney because she clearly needs it. But Heather, when she's talking to Porsha, is caught up in like some sort of twisted lie about the Mormon list that she's on, so Porsha is a little bit confused about that. Then they bring more Kentucky Fried Chicken for Porsha. Again, I don't blame her. Then the whole group gets massages. It's the day's beginning. This was one of Porsha's activities for everybody to get massages. Some of them take off their clothes and some of them make weird sounds. For some reason, Gizelle is always making weird noises. Gizelle is sitting with Heather and she wants to talk to Jen Shah. So she tells Heather to call Jen Shah over the phone. She really wants to call her, like really bad. But she didn't answer because it looks like it was midnight back in America. It would have been cool if she answered though, not gonna lie, just to see what Gizelle would have said to her. Then Porsha's next activity is lunch, but all the food is raw and they have to cook it. When they are at the table, Candiace wants to address Porsha, and she begins to cry with her triangle napkin as always. And you all want to know what she talked to Porsha about? About her and Monique fighting. It's crazy that this is still so emotional for Candiace. Like every time she's talking about it, she begins to cry. But she says that she was hurt mostly because of the aftermath of the fight and people's reactions. And Porsha apparently went on some platform and said that Candiace was suing Monique to pay her down payment of her home. But Porsha is trying to explain, well, you know what? That's what my friend was telling me, as in Monique. You know, she was saying all these things, so I just said it in the live chat that I was on. And Candiace gets a little bit triggered and says, well, that was defamatory, whether she told you or not. And Gizelle says, well, she did defend Candiace, which is true, but for some reason that wasn't really resonating with Candiace at the moment, because I think she was too busy trying to argue with Porsha. And then Candiace drops a Dr. Wendy line. She's like, I have a college degree in communications, blah blah blah. And Porsha says, well, you have a degree, but I actually work in a journalism job, blah blah blah. And in her confessionals, Candiace says that it's disappointing that Porsha won't say that her friend Monique was wrong, and she calls her a bully again. Let me just say, hashtag Team Monique, okay? Then they begin to play one of Porsha's games that she has. Essentially, it's volleyball, but they're all wearing elephant costumes, and it's hilarious because that's obviously making it hard for them to play, but it was funny to watch. Then there's like a who eats the fastest challenge, and then there's a truth or dare. But the dare is you're going to have to eat a scorpion if you don't answer the question. So Alexia is asked to rank her husband's bed performances from best to worst. She does it. Candiace is asked a question about Monique. She answers. Gizelle is asked who would make the least on OF, and she says Marysol. But then they ask Leah who should never return to Real Housewives of New York legacy, and she decides not to answer and she eats the scorpion. Then Whitney is asked to name 3 times that Heather has lied on camera. This was so messy, but according to Whitney, she doesn't want to be petty anymore with Heather. She says that she wants to make things right with Heather, but wasn't she just talking bad about Heather before this on the phone with Lisa? But anyway, she eats the scorpion. Then Heather's question is, who gave you the black eye? She also eats the scorpion because she doesn't want to answer, and it's really suspicious to all of them, and it kind of feeds into the idea that she's protecting Jen. Then they ask another shady question to Marysol, who do you trust the least? And she says, easy, Leah. She has thrown me under the bus like 3 times already. Leah is obviously upset, but doesn't say much. They wrap up the game and go get ready. They only have 45 minutes to do so. Alexia and Marysol are crashing a little bit though on this trip because Alexia is getting a little bit fed up with Marysol's mess in the room. Like, it's really messy. Food everywhere, clothes everywhere. And Marysol is trying to blame Pepsi, but Alexia is saying, that's not his job. They are all ready now, and they are going to be going to a dinner that's going to be hosted by none other than Gizelle. So it's going to be like a Mardi Gras theme because Gizelle is from New Orleans. On the ride to the dinner, Porsha and Gizelle are talking bad about guess who? Candiace. Porsha thinks that Candiace likes to poke the bear, but when she's called out, she starts to cry, and then she calls them bullies. Then Gizelle, who is a spin master, gives her version of the curse accusations, and she keeps reiterating that she never used the word SA, that Candiace was the one who did. And she does want to address that issue, but not tonight, but definitely on this trip. So they arrive, they are all seated at dinner, and the food looks great, I'll give them that. Gizelle shares the importance of her background and her dad, and a little bit about that. When she's talking about her family and stuff like that, it actually kind of makes you want to like her. Unfortunately, though, it starts to rain, so they have to go inside. So that wasn't really ideal. And as they're going inside, Gizelle is leading like a little dance with the umbrellas. And inside, Gizelle is bringing back the reasonably shady with the paddles game that she did in Potomac, but she's doing it now. So what she does is that she's referencing some things that the women who are on this trip have said or done, and they're all going to vote if it's reasonably or if it's shady. So I feel like it's going to be shady. What's shady is the fact that she's asking if it's shady or not. So do you get what I'm saying? But shade is thrown at Alexia first for saying that Miami made a comeback or whatever. And then they shade Candiace for saying if it's reasonable or if it's shady to call someone bullies without you even knowing them. And Porsha pulls that thing right up to say that it's shady and says that it's really shady for Candiace to have said that. But Candiace is doubling down and keeps calling Porsha and Gizelle bullies for the way that she supposedly treated Leah and herself. They also asks if it's shady or reasonable to name a book something that you don't believe in, which is a clear dig to Heather. So what does Whitney do? She opens the can of worms again and starts talking about the church and Heather and the list and the documents. Everyone in the group is so over it, just as we are. But the thing ends and they all leave dancing with their umbrellas, so it was okay. On the ride home, though, Whitney won't shut up and wants to keep bringing it up. And Porsha, who's in the other car, does mention this to Gizelle and thinks that it's weird that her and Heather are fighting and they pretend like nothing happened, and then it's right and then it's wrong, and then they keep doing it over and over again. But eventually they all arrive home, and Whitney, the first thing she does is go into the confessional room that they have and reveals the 3 lies that Heather has said on camera, which she didn't want to do earlier, but now, after dinner, now at night, she all of a sudden has the courage to do so, by herself, obviously. So the 3 lies are supposedly that Jen punched her, that she was never friends with Lisa, and something about the bad Mormon thing. Which, guys, this is why I will never, ever, ever like Whitney, because of things like this. And I really do think that most people know how she is, but this season is definitely like showing her true colors. But I did really enjoy this episode. I thought it was funny. I thought it was shady. I thought it was really entertaining. What did you guys think about it? I found it really interesting that Candiace did bring up Monique into the conversation. So let me know your comments and what you thought about this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you won't miss any further videos. And I'll catch y'all next time. You have a great one. Bye.